Today is July 20th, 2025, nearly 1,300 days after being falsely arrested and convicted for a crime I have not committed. This is my story. I start my story with a question. Is it morally and ethically right to act as a good Samaritan? Moreover, is it just to arrest and convict someone for offering help as a good Samaritan? That exact scenario is what I experienced one faithful evening on January 10th, 2022 at 5 p.m. After returning from running errands, I heard a whimpering dog outside. At first, it did not seem abnormal. After spending 10 minutes putting on a car cover, I heard the cries of the whimpering dog again. Following the sound, I found a cold and abandoned dog tied to a grill with no owner in sight. The temperature was well below 30 degrees. I couldn't stand by, concerned. An innocent animal had been left abandoned to freeze. From where we lived, my partner and I's apartment was just a short drive from the local Humane Society on Page Avenue, where the dog could receive proper care and be reunited with its owner. I was determined to seek help from the local animal shelter, whom I called, along with the animal control unit in St. Charles, returning outside to the common ground mere moments later with my partner so she could hold the dog while I drove. Immediately upon exiting our apartment, a large gentleman charged towards us. He aggressively accused us of pilfering his dog and threatened us with violence. Before my partner and I could utter a word in our defense, the imposing man, who was twice my size, closed into less than a foot from our persons. With closed fist, he was ready to engage in a physical altercation. I am 140 pounds. My partner is 135. The other man was 280 pounds plus. The situation instantly escalated, beyond helping an innocent animal. Now, in the face of genuine danger of the other man's homicidal idealization, I made a tough, split-second decision to draw my legally carried firearm, not with the intent to harm, but to defuse this situation and safeguard my partner and myself. I kept my firearm at my hip and never resorted to force. With the tension diffused, we verified the dog's ownership, returning it to its owner, and I secured my firearm, feeling that the incident had concluded. Upon returning to our apartment, hardly 2 minutes passed when the large man returned outside, this time threatening my vehicle. Having already faced threats from the man once, I harbored no illusions that he would cease after damaging my vehicle. Stepping outside, I found myself accosted by officers who promptly commanded me to surrender, a command which I obeyed without hesitation. During the arrest, I was forcibly shoved against a brick wall, then lifted from the ground and dragged by my shoulders, with my feet unable to reach the ground, resulting in an injury in my right leg, an injury I will suffer from to this day. Every action I took was not out of aggression, but in response to the other man's actions. He had left the dog outside for an extended period of time in the middle of winter, threatened us with violence, and then returned to threaten us again. My actions were aimed at helping an animal and defending myself and others. I take full responsibility for my actions. I am accountable for standing my ground after being threatened, for protecting another, and for seeking aid for an animal. However, I am not responsible for the other man's actions. His choices and behaviors are his own. My responses were driven by the right to life and to ensure the safety and well-being of my partner, myself, in a difficult situation. The officers were not interested in investigating or understanding my explanation, intentions, or motives. They failed to uphold my rights and allowed their emotions to influence their decision. Their focus was entirely fixated on apprehending the man who had held the firearm, unaware that I was a good Samaritan. Following the incident, I ended up entangled in the legal system, enduring over 48 hours in county intake without any insight to the charges laid against me. A 2-week stint behind bars followed before being granted bond. During my time in custody, I was denied the means to secure legal representation and did not receive any medical attention for my injuries. Unfortunately, our experience with the Rosenblum, Schwartz, Fry, and Johnson firm led to substantial impediments in my case. Despite our trust in their expertise, my family's selected lawyer failed to meet the basic standards of expected legal representation. Their oversights were both numerous and profoundly negligent. Firstly, there was a conspicuous absence of effort to understand my perspective through proper investigations or to engage in essential legal procedures such as discovery or deposition. Secondly, communication with my attorney was frustratingly loose. Our interactions were limited to 3 occurrences. Initially, the formal acceptance of the case, then the denial of an interview, and finally, the agreement to a plea deal under duress. Thirdly, the injuries I sustained were never addressed, both physically and psychological. Furthermore, instead of diligently preparing a robust defense, the chosen strategy was to prioritize appeasing the prosecution. Advocacy for my rights and interests had been compromised from the start. I had been denied a voice in my own defense. As I was in jail, I had no input on the selection of my lawyer, and my rights had not been upheld throughout the process. Despite my numerous efforts to collaborate with my lawyer, I received no response. As a result, my story was unheard, my injuries uninvestigated, my inquiries and uncertainties ignored, my life disregarded. Now I must bear the consequences of the unethical and ineffective actions of my lawyer, the failures of the legal system to uphold justice. I am now paying the price for another man's actions. These compounded failures have accumulated in a situation that has irreparably altered my life. For half a year, I grappled not only with the complexities of my case, but with my attorney's appalling reluctance to effectively manage it. St. Louis Post-Dispatch's selective reporting significantly influenced the case's narrative. The Post-Dispatch's slanderous articles ensured any trial by jury would be tainted with bias. At the behest of my lawyer, I accepted a plea deal. The alternative was up to decades in prison, which she guaranteed. This experience represents my initial and sole interaction with the legal system. However, my case was hastily processed and mishandled, resulting in the denial of my rightful due process and relinquishment of my rights without understanding and under duress. Furthermore, crucial information such as appeal deadlines and procedures for filing writs of habeas corpus or certiorari were not adequately communicated. Over nearly 3 years, I have tirelessly pursued justice, exhausting every legal avenue. I have submitted official complaints to the Office of the Chief Disciplinary Counsel, the Missouri Attorney General, the Advisory Committee to the Supreme Court of Missouri, but they all have been disregarded. I've exhausted numerous avenues seeking assistance. The Missouri Bar offered no support. All 196 members of the Missouri State House ignored my pleas. Missouri's federal representatives provided no help. The mayor of Overland only spoke cryptically, despite addressing several municipal city council meetings and contacting every nonprofit legal aid service in the state. I have found no interest or support. Legal clinics at the various colleges have denied my case. The Archdiocese of St. Louis has not responded. Both the Innocence Project and the Exoneration Project declined due to the nature of my case. Multiple requests for media coverage has not materialized. Of the hundreds of lawyers I've approached, everyone has been unwilling to hear my story or consider my case without egregious payment. I am now pursuing a gubernatorial pardon from Governor Mike Cohey, though I understand the nature of my case prevents us from being considered for pardon. My experience prompts thoughtful consideration regarding personal safety, wrongful convictions, and how the legal system handles individuals involved in unforeseen circumstances. It highlights the complexity of self-defense, including the nuanced boundary between protecting oneself and facing accusations of criminal conduct. During the time spent incarcerated, and amidst the dictates of the judge, the shortcomings of my legal counsel, and the total failure of the legal proceedings, it has taken a colossal toll. It has stripped me of my livelihood, my residence, my education, my well-being, my aspirations, and any prospects for the future. By the judge, I was ordered to never return home and had to abandon my pursuits of higher education. Since my conviction, finding better employment has been impossible. I was forced into buying a house after being unable to return. We were unable to rent due to pending charges. This has plunged me into mountainous debt. It has left me broken, physically, mentally, financially, all because an act of altruism as a good Samaritan has left my life in ruin. Given the profound impact it's had on my life, I will grapple with PTSD and depression indefinitely. This wrongful conviction and miscarriage of justice will forever stain my life. The wounds of police misconduct have crippled me. The burden of over $600,000 in debt for being a good Samaritan will be a lifelong struggle. My life has been traded unfairly and unjustly for that of a hardened criminal. While my time behind bars has concluded, it's the enduring confinement of my potential that persists. I aspire to fulfill my calling as a teacher and contribute to society. Mere existence is not enough for me. I yearn to make a meaningful impact. Teaching and guiding the next generation is my passion, yet it remains out of reach due to my unjust conviction, chaining my future prospects. I'm asking you to take a moment of your time, a moment of your life, that could help free and exonerate me for the rest of my life. I'm reaching out to you with hope that you will support and spotlight my story, shedding light on the detrimental outcomes faced by those who strive to do good, and how our system penalizes those driven by altruism. I need a lawyer or advocate to present my case to the Court of Appeals, Missouri Supreme Court, Governor Cohey, or the U.S. Supreme Court. I ask you, how much can one man pay for being a good Samaritan?